go, brother. Okay. Clean your teeth, right? Keep them teeth clean. Now put it right here. I'm not. Yeah, no. You know what? Here. Hey, hey, bye-bye. Oh, that's on the wrong tray. You're smart. I'll give you 5 of these. Only 5. Dude, you're getting bigger than me and I'm losing weight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. There you go. That's it. Until tonight. Yes, till tonight. You better be scratching that book, boy. I love you. Wish you had a frame, boy. And we finished Flatlanders, which was an excellent read. I might have to read this again springtime, because I know there's a lot of people that came that was asking me about this. 205. Thank you, Arthur Cussler. Even though there's a lot of idiots running around, 90% of my land, niggas included, we're going to get to the bottom of the frauds and how we've become to be in the situation we're in. Just chatted with somebody on YouTube. They didn't know that I was testing them. And the first thing, the little goofy, whether melanated or not, or AI, can we have a respectful conversation? I am. The problem is, all you little pink and blue haired colored individuals who've been raised in a lie, you believe that your ideology and to gaslight and to do reversal, what you call it, condemnation, is going to work with individuals such as myself. We don't care about that. We don't change our sway. We couldn't be at one of them rallies because we've been killed half of you, honestly. Police and nobody would be able to stop us. Nobody. Because y'all get violent. For no reason other than feelings and emotions. You cannot have a dialect. You cannot have regular conversation. And that's sad. So we don't put ourselves in a position to have to. No, we know that a lot of you can change. So we don't put ourselves over it. We want to see people snap up out of the sickness, whatever it is, that you have been allowed to believe to exist. Allowed to exist that you believe or they believe you should exist in. No, we wouldn't tolerate it. That's why we don't partake in that foolishness. We wouldn't sit there. Well, actually, half of us probably would just beat it so that way you know better. But it wouldn't be what you think. You know, UFC and Muhammad Ali with certain movies, Raging Bull, Ali, and all that would have you believe that that's the way it goes all the time. Y'all have yet to see how it really goes. So for you crayon-colored hair and Negroes and Negras and everything else, whatever you want to call yourselves, I don't know, you niggas, pepperwoods, rednecks, whatever you want to call yourselves. Yeah, we don't parlay with foolishness. It's in a book. If you can rational reason by reading yourself to be self-approved and then to be able to put the puzzle pieces together and to go beyond even the picture that's painted when you start seeing, because that is not the final result. There is more to it. So yeah. So the individuals having a conversation or AI, whatever. So I realized it may be AI. And I says, well, I realized you can't learn nothing from me. And I realized when they made that statement that it was about control. Let me help y'all out. Watch it. You have absolutely zero control. Everything that you're doing is based upon something or someone else. So, like I stated about the bank, credit union yesterday. People think they're in control. And they'll be the first ones knocking on your door when SHTF happens because they're nowhere prepared. Or they'll be leaning on the people around them who are far from prepared to deal with anything that comes down the street or from the sky. It's not about what you believe. I don't care about what you believe. I don't want you to care about what I believe. Actually, I don't really believe in a whole lot of anything. I don't formulate that ideology. What I do is work to have a commonality of knowing myself and fuck all the stuff outside. Now, I don't expect you to get a grand mal seizure from doing it. I expect you to take a walk on the wild side and allow yourself to have self-appreciation. Not in the perversions you've lived and done. Now, if you're holding on and lingering in that phenomenon of a construct that has nothing to do with your truth, then you'll never arise to you'll never get anywhere. You'll stay right where right there. You can fake it, not around some of us, but you can fake it. And there's no fake it to make it. You have to actually make it. Some might be crying. This is what the gaslighters of self do. But it's going to take time. No, it doesn't. If you know how to listen, you can ascertain many things. What the problem is that you won't admit is you're afraid. It's fear. You're very fearful. Trust me. You don't have to trust me, actually. It doesn't matter whether you trust me or not. I'm not here to make you a believer. I'm here to see you look at yourself and believe in what you see. And if you're fucked up, believe it. It's a fact. If you're changing for the better, believe it. That means you're actually doing it. If you're caught in the middle, believe that too, because you're caught in the middle. It's not complicated, people. It's not complicated at all. I'm changing my hands up. That thing's a little too warm up in here. This is pomegranate juice, distilled water, lime and lemon, oil, organic. I like keeping the pomegranate bottle to put, instead of concentrate, to put the real pomegranate juice in there. You call them and ask them, why do you do concentrate? And listen to the lie they sell you. It's idiots like what I'm talking about right now. Another reason why they've destroyed a lot of food and the shelves are going empty, and what you're eating right now probably has all kind of weird stuff in it that can have some effect on you, because they knew that the time was coming that people would start questioning these things. The problem is the people who are at the very top of these companies, there's only a handful, will let anybody that works at the company take the fall. Because they don't have no real answer. The people that work for these companies in the CFO, CEO position, they're not the heads of it. They're not the owners of the crap. These are the people that's allowed to go to the Epstein Islands and all that other stuff that you know nothing about because you won't pay attention. I told y'all about Albertson, old organics. The Hindu all of a sudden pops up out of nowhere right before, listen to me now. It was planned before the fake demic, and Oprah. Oprah doesn't care about you. It was in order for her to have be able to have a dynamic with you, a dynamic dialect with you, she had to have shows and movies, color purple, and this, that, and all the other goofy stuff. And you bought into it because it took you outside of yourself, and that's why it's called entertainment. It's another vice, another channel, not literally here, but another channeling that you see. And in your suffrage, because the ignoramus is putting positions around to make sure you're enamored with a lot of nonsense, you can never elevate. I see dumb niggas now talking about, man, the color when Whoopi and her homegirl was singing that song when her cousin came singing that song, walking across the bridge, going to the church. Man, that's the dumbest, sickest, goofiest stuff I've ever seen in my life. But you will sit there and say, oh, it felt good. Misdirected energy, miss me with that. See, I have no feelings for this stuff. When you start realizing you've been living a lie and the lie has encompassed you all around you, there's no law by the U.S. that applies to you if you only knew that. And not no goofy Moore stuff either. The law, they don't apply to you, but they do apply to something dead, fictional, straw. That's morning lessons. I'm going to get into reading. Just want this to get a little slushy. There we go. Yeah, my hands are pretty hard. Yeah. I didn't want to have the camera open my face, so I put it far away from me. All right. Move this a little closer now. We can leave that light on. I can turn this light off. I can see actually. It's like more of these lights, man. These lights are actually not good. That's why I go outside and look at the sky. Alright. I got my mountain climbers here because I plan on doing something today, and I might still do it because it's kind of nice outside. So I might have to don these. And you stay off them. I'm playing with my damn sneakers, cut. Dandelion tea is kind of hot. Oh, I burnt my throat. Okay, let's get into it. Start with Enoch. Let me turn this off, guys. All right. When we left, this is the book of Enoch. Excuse me, the Defender. If y'all know what I'm saying, it's the old newspaper too. Okay, so that way you can look at, if you want to look at the publishing. We already did that early on, so we're not going to do all that again. And each one slew and destroyed. This is when remember we was talking about the fact that well, I had mentioned to y'all something about Gilgamesh, and we're talking about the sheep and the goats, and you know what it alludes to when you're reading and stuff. The sheep that are invited, that slaughter and betrayed his place. You know, we're talking about the people who betrayed the people. Like amongst the sheep, there are betrayers that don't have wolf's clothing. They are sheep themselves. We see a lot of that. It's indicative to how we're living right now. You see a lot of sheep put in positions to betray you as if they're going to get a reward. One of the reward is death. Trust me. And each one slew and destroyed many more than was prescribed. So we see the gluttony. We see that. And I don't like reiterating this. I'm not a religious motherfucker. What I do know is this ancient stories that have been perverted. Okay? That's it. Listen, get pieces of the puzzles, and then you extrapolate. Okay? And each one slew and destroyed many more than was prescribed. And I began to weep and lament on account of those sheep. You know, you look at PA, the liberal states with these cops that Trump, these goofy fucks, these people who have more Down syndrome than anything known. I'm talking about Pelskins and some of them Negroes that run around with them, attempting to emanate them because they served in the military. And then the ones that didn't, to sit there and target men of Aboriginal origin, and you a nigga just as well, you black and don't even know it. That shows the lamentation of your stupidity. Somebody had an issue when I said, oh, the person that started the so-called racist ideology was a team of, I think it was 7 or 10 fake, before they were Jews. Yes, they created it. If you haven't studied that far and you've listened to these people in the Moorish science and Farrakhan, all these other goof fucks, that's on you. Racism is the dumbest thing anybody followed for whatever reason, because I know it's hard to shake when you get stuck living by something vicariously too. It's the dumbest damn thing on the earth. But you cops, 90% of you are corrupt and no fucking good. I'm grateful that I worked with, trained, and know some decent ones. Yes, that's why I'm looking at them individuals. But the majority of y'all are some of the dumbest things walking. You don't know the laws, contractual laws, and what's even more disturbing is to have sheriff out here who don't even know the Constitution. That never would have happened in the 60s and 70s. Though we know that there were people implicated and put in positions who quickly got out when things changed because they know that they would have to answer. And a lot of them murdered, suicide. I know nobody's going to tell you that because you're not going to do the research. So why tell you? Anyway, I'm only speaking based upon studies. I have no feelings in any of this. Remember that. I don't. And thus in the vision I saw one who wrote, or how he wrote, down everyone that was destroyed by those shepherds day by day, and carried up and laid down and showed actually the whole book to the Most High of the sheep, even in parentheses, everything that he had done and all that each one of them had made away with. Do you know what that means? Gotten away, okay? And all that they had given over to destruction, betrayed, and turned over to a false lamentation. That means something to have you sit there and you're being accused and you're recused to sit there and profane and say, yes, I was wicked and I was done. And then guy standing behind you while you're in your orange jumpsuit being the new black, cuts your head off and puts it on your belly. And the book was read before the Most High of the sheep, and he took the book from his hand and read it and sealed it and laid it down, meaning that it is, as it is written, so shall it be. And forthwith I saw how the shepherds pastured for 12 hours. And behold, 3 of those sheep turned back and came and entered and began to build up all that had fallen down of that house. And this is why they call you children, or child, a human, or mankind. You're more likened to a beast. Because this is not originally how this was written. How would I know? Because I know the story of the pale wolf and the dark wolf. Imbeciles, the origin of it all. But the wild boars tried to hinder them, but they were not able. These are elites extrapolating to make you more like a beast, a creature of the field. But the funny thing is, they remember everything. They can regenerate things. They can heal. depending on how the trauma of the wound is. They made it so you can't, which you actually can. But if you don't want to fast and you want to eat the garbage you're eating, you'll never be able to do it. And they began again to build as before, and they reared up that tower, and it was named the High Tower. And they began again to place a table before the tower, an altar, people, but all Babylon. But all the bread on it was polluted and not pure. That means it was full of yeast. It was not unleavened. The hands that work with it were adulterated. For those of you who know all this stuff. And as touching all this, the eyes of those sheep were blinded so that they saw not. And in parentheses, the eyes of. And their shepherds likewise. And they delivered them in large numbers to their shepherds for destruction. Is that sacrifice? And they trampled the sheep with their feet and devoured them. Are those the giants? Could that be the custodians and the Anunnaki? I don't know. And the Most High of the sheep remained unmoved. So I know a lot of you always going, you see what we're going through with God? What are you? You don't exist. And you're so selfish. First of all, you don't know what the true word is. You don't have a name. And you're imperative. And I see that with certain Negroes pushing these unveiled things like as if they just popped up out of nowhere and created themselves. Maybe we did come here just to have an existence, to go through whatever, to put away whatever it is we truly know, to exist and to be taken back and go, what a ride, what a rush. Remain unmoved till all the sheep were dispersed over the field and mingled with them. That means spread out. Babylon destroyed, boom, 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 different languages. In parentheses, i.e. the beast. Pay attention. This is their inserts. This is how they see you. And they, in parentheses, i.e. the shepherds, did not save them out of the hand of the beasts. So that means what? Prophets? Those wayward individuals that choose not to follow or adhere and to go back into the hands of those who would misguide and destroy. Well, women, you want to be out there clapping your butt, and men all lusting and looking at other men's butts. Yeah, well, you get the gist of it. And this one who wrote the book carried it up and showed it and would listen to those who would convince you that it's normal and okay. You see what they're doing with the children now, right? Stop being complacent. It's very simple, people. And this one who wrote the book carried it up and showed it and read it before the Most High, or whatever you want to call that word. I hate that word, Lord, of the sheep, and implored him on their account and besought him on their account as he showed him all the doings of the shepherds and gave testimony before him against all the shepherds. And he took the actual book and laid it down beside him and departed. That's the only chapter. That's only chapters I want to read right there. Okay. It's about 8. All right. Then we'll get, well, that chapter, I want to finish that chapter off. We're getting to chapter 90 tomorrow. So I want to get into the book of Giants. And like I said, I know a lot of you have a hard time to stop worshiping shit. I know it's hard to hear that without going, I need to get the book of Enoch. Maybe getting the wrong one. And I need to hold on. Because you don't know how to discern or take away and know what to look at and what to see. Your convictions are a moot. You don't have any. You're very frail and still misguided. So there's a way to look at things. And then you can apply it to this time. That's all it is. A story to be applied to the time you're in, or a story to be told that may be coming. Like I said, Gilgamesh was a giant. So what's the Epic of Gilgamesh? Who would narrate it and such? But wasn't the giants that moved by us, with us? That means Gilgamesh survived. That means that which was supposed to destroy him, right? You think about Nimrod, right? Who's wrote the stories? What is it that you really understand? What if it's all frugal and just conscripted to make everybody hold on to something? Yet even within the fiction of the stories, if they are fictions, there's something to be gained, all right? So we finished off. Yahweh took wing and flew across the great desert. Enoch saw him and called out to him. Yahweh referred to this encounter as his second visit. Yahweh asked Enoch to interpret the dreams. Excuse me. This is the Book of Giants, The Watchers, Nephilim, and the Book of Enoch by Joseph Lumpkin. I actually ordered another one. Rip Lloyd was on my ass about it, so we'll get it. The Genesis 6. Enoch blessed and praised God. That word, it's not belief of nothing one or supreme or imminent of those in our existence, which we don't have to worry or look for, but we should question everything around us for strength and energy. I don't think you get it. That will come down the road. I already read Flatlandis, and if you didn't understand that, chakras, this, that, and all the other stuff, that's on you. The Aramaic version was thought to belong in the Book of Enoch at one time. At one time. Thought to belong in the Book of Enoch. We will attempt to place it back into the Book of Enoch in some reasonable order and reconstruct the text. We're in June's 13th tribe. There's only 10 tribes. It's not 12, you idiots. And I'm so tired of this. Anyway, we're going to add a whole bunch of vowels to misinterpolate to create a new language, because the other one might be fraudulent. It's funny how they always go to Latin or Aramaic. What was before that? What was the truth of the language? What was the language of the Tartarians? Which is actually a real reality, which has been hidden. Isn't it funny that it was never talked about or mentioned? So they must give you something else. And where did they conscript all these narratives from? We'll get into that later on. Following is a reconstructed text. The order of some fragments is not certain and may not follow the preceding outline. Translation of the Aramaic version found in the caves of Qumran. The unreadable or missing portions of the text are signified by or within the text. The symbols, quotations, whatever, signifies a phrase or portion thereof. Okay, this is just breaking down when you look for something as far as explaining something. In the Book of Giants, reconstructed text, the wicked angels descend, bringing both knowledge and havoc. Excuse me. We know that, in Enoch's book, it speaks on that as well as so-called, Genesis, which Enoch was apparently removed, in the story of Gilgamesh, which if you ever get a hold of all of it, you'd be surprised that I don't know how many, is like several, 8 books, something, in this thousands where pertain to piggybacking off of stuff. Anyway, it's, yeah, when you read it, it's conflicting and confusing. That's why we say it's a bunch of hogwash tied with some reality. Okay, they knew the secrets of sin, and so this is breaking down in the quatrains as far as when you read stuff, and I'm going to show you, because I'm not going to read all this so that way because this is from Aramaic. Okay, they drenched the tablet in the water. The waters went up over the tablet. But the water went up over the tablet. They lifted out the tablet from the water. All right, that's all that is. So we're just going to move back on over to reading. Yeah, I was looking at this before, and I was like, I don't have the original version that I have of Enoch is supposedly Aramaic, but it's a doozy. So let's go ahead and get to the Manichean. Where's it at? Manichean version is what we're going to stick with. Like I said, in the Aramaic is quatrains, just like the Book of Enoch. The Manichean version of the Book of Giants. Fragments of and all allusions to the Manichean, fragments of and allusions to the Manichean version of the Book of Giants have been recovered in medieval manuscripts in various languages, including Middle Persian, Sogdian, Yugur, Chinese Yugur, Coptic, Parthian, and Latin. The following is a summary of the surviving. It's funny how they always run to Latin, right? Anyway, the surviving fragments, and it doesn't mean Spanish people. Anyway, fragments and allusions, which has been placed in a sequence which reveals a logical storyline. There could be other possible sequences of the fragmented verses. It's funny, in Española, it's not recognized as Latin until they come to the Americas. You ever think of why? I'm going to leave that be. Some of the Manichaean versions adapted the story of the giants to fit Iranian mythology. Skujra, or whatever the hell, discusses these adaptations at length. Three of the most striking adjustments have to do with the names of major characters. Sam, all right, is the name of an immortal dragon slayer in later Iranian Sephardic epic. His name is given to the giant Ohaya, Ohaya's brother, Haya. Pay attention. Is given the name Nariman, who in Iranian epic is a figure closely connected to Sam, either identified with him or presented as one of his close relatives. The name of the father of the giant Mahawe, the demon Varagdat, means given by lightning in Persian. A loose translation of Baraquel, remember the fallen, which is Hebrew for lightning of God. The watcher Baraquel seems to be the father of Mahawe in the Aramaic version of the Book of Giants. It is back there, but it's missing so much contextual. Following a synopsis of the storyline of the Manichaean version of the Book of Giants, the 200 demons descended to earth. The watchers forsook their duties and descended to earth because of the beauty of the human woman. Some thought, and that means not no flat-butted things. Anyway, it's funny how our women are getting flat butts and no bells. Well, anyway, some thought they could resist the allure, but they could not. So what you believe is what you create. Okay, that's why I said that. They began having sex with the women, and the demons revealed forbidden arts and spiritual mysteries. Some shared their power to seduce the women. What is a demon, really? Anyway, in doing these things, the watchers, custodians, Anunnaki, brought ruin on the earth. The descent from their estate and revealing to human their secrets of power angered the angels and God. Enoch, listen, the Anakim who helped us, Enoch warned that let's say the Anakim helped us against the Anunnaki when they were fighting the custodians. I'm just throwing this out there because I know you're not going to do this. And the descent from their estate and revealing to humans their secrets of power angered the angels and God. They want to keep you worshiping some false thing, or is there something relevant of, I hate to say it, the power within you? Watchers subjugated the human race, killing hundreds of thousands of the righteous in battle, forcibly marrying beautiful women and enslaving the nations. The watchers veil, which seems to mean they hid themselves among humans to keep the angels sent from God from finding them. The Anakim. The righteous, the custodians, actually. The righteous endured burning, and Enoch is mentioned. The watchers, Samaja, begat two giant sons, Sam Ahaya and Patsam Ahaya. Yes, all you fallen legs, well, be mindful. The other demons and Yaksas begat the rest of the giants. These are the Nephilim. So all these words everybody's throwing around, walking around looking like Dragon Ball Z and this, that, and other. Yeah. Goofy niggas, y'all, walking with staffs with an ankh around their neck. Good slaves. They need you to stay there. But who are they really? That's why I'm reading this. I'm not just reading it so you can hear me reading a book. I need you to perceive things outside. The version of the books of giants were influenced, versions of the book of the giants were influenced by local traditions. The names of Haya and Sam were introduced via myths pertaining to that Iranian hero. This explains the immortality of Sam, the name of the country of Aryan Vejan. Equals Ariana Ballet, and I keep telling you that the Iranians you see tonight are not the original Iranians. Well, they've been messed up. Anyway, and the change of the mountain to Kigman Mountains, substituting for Mount Hermon. Remember Mount Hermon? Negro Black Rock? Polaris? North Pole. Okay. Anyway, reflect changes due to influence by local myths, names, landscapes, and terrain. You see how things are spread out to keep people running in confusion? And when you imagine putting a worshiping gene within the greatest of all existence, that's the spark, like in Transformers, or the source, the light, the Hawa. And keep them running around in circles like you. The giants grew up and brought destruction and ruin upon the earth and the human race. Human race, less than man, less than the spark, less than the source, less than the God you are. The lamentation of humanity reached up to heaven. We've got one dome. Isn't heaven all around? Isn't it the voice of the earth, the mother, father, the sky? And even greater than that, which does not need to be known? Isn't it order? The god Yima accepted the prayers and worship of mankind as they begged him for help. Oh, that's right. What do they call that now? I'm going to give you a little something for a little reprieve. That'll have you put more faith into me. Don't believe everything. The giants boasted that Sa'am and his brother would live and rule forever because their power and strength were unequaled among men. In parentheses, this is a possible parallel to the Aramaic version of Gilgamesh. End of parentheses. And we'll pick up the next part tomorrow. It gets pretty interesting. I love reading this stuff. An accurate description of America. And you're going to be like, what the? Man, just listen. This is written by, I showed y'all the picture of the sister yesterday. I did further research on her, and I'm going to leave it right there. This is not the original book. Okay? I saw the original book with the Library of Congress. This is somebody else's interpretation, yet it helps to break down the colors of tawny and swarthy and sallow, which you never hear of, which alludes to actual black, which is pale skin. That means in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, having any of several colors averaging a grayish, greenish yellow that is paler than the color of hay. Swarthy now, if you think about Lincoln, possessing or being a dark color complexion or cast somewhat dark in color. In the Oxford English Dictionary, of a dark hue, black or blackish dusky. That's right, Lincoln was swarthy. We know that in 1934, he was played by certain actors, and he was always painted black with a curly afro. Thank you to the lying small hats. Tawny, Merriam-Webster Dictionary, a brownish orange to light brown that is slightly redder than sorrel, closer to me. Oxford English Dictionary, name of a composite color, which is brunette, people, consisting of brown with a preponderance of yellow or orange, but formerly applied also to other shades of brown, a brown-skinned person, tawny, or more. Moors were considered to be halflings, blackamoors, or for their short period of existence. And people act like they've been there forever. Stupid. All right, an accurate description of America. This is what we're going to pick up today. Chapter 1. Again, this is America being the latest and most accurate description of the New World. Book 1. Kimberly R. Norton and John Ogilvy. Ogilvy was the actual writer, I believe. What was it, the 15th? Whatever. You look him up. English. And Kimberly R. Norton is the one that picked it up. Not unless you need to redo it, but I guess if you want to make a paycheck, you can do this. And we can see the shades and what they actually look like by prescriptions. We had one of them goofy little pale-skinned natives want to sit there talking about, that's in Africa. No, this is actually a painting by Frenchmen right here on this soil, doing, I think, post-ceremonials, talking to certain people who had traveled here. Freaking moronic idiots. No pale skins. You were not here like that. We bore a number you in, and you mungled amongst what we considered at the time the term was lepers. But those, Albion, don't know shit. America unknown to the ancients, and they are all dead, or mixed in. Because the government made sure to know the few that existed on their birth certificate have Negro or Black on it. Go and visit them in Georgia if you dare. Or how about question some of the ones around you who picked up the mantle of calling themselves white? America unknown to the ancients, chapter 1. The sea that takes several denominations from the countries which it washes, several, and surrounding the dry land, cuts out and shapes so many winding bays, creeks, and meandering inlets, seems nowhere so much confined and penned into a narrow channel as the Straits of Magellan, from whence again soon expectating it spreads itself into two immense and almost boundless oceans, that which opens to the north gives terminaries to the four regions of the earth, like, you know, they call it the Atlantic, Pacific, and yeah, bullshit. Anyway, earth, that to the south only to Asia and America, both which indeed are but one continued sea, extending itself around the universal globe. See, that's why I say read about these niggas that be taking material and rewriting stuff. Do yourself the, all right, and pay attention. This watery part of the world that almost through all ages lay fallow, as I sallow as follow. Okay, F-A-L-O-W. Okay, so she wants to show her tongue articulation. I can't stand these uppity little negresses. That's problems of our world. But the book, I'm going to continue to read it. Have in these later times been furrowed by several expert and stout captains, who now by their art and industry have given a good account of and made clear discoveries from east to west, wherever the sun rises and sets. They're not discoveries, right? If they've always been known. I have to do that, people. The northern bounds under the Arctic zone have been until now so obstructed with ice that the undertakings up to now of such as ventured either to find by the northeast or northwest a passage to India. You know why she put that like that? And why him being a 33rd degree Ogilvy? Because there are maps that clearly show you no ice at the walls surrounding us. Northwest, a passage to India, have been utterly frustrated. Of the southern, no such pains have as yet been taken in the discovery of that. For the most part, it is yet unknown how far the water, either deep or shallow, overspreads the earth. Only thus much experience has made out that the Antarctic needs lesser line to fathom than the Arctic Ocean. Wow. The ancient Greeks, Phoenicians, and Romans, or whosoever that were renowned by antiquity, and listed in the number of their famous navigators, were no less timorous than ignorant concerning maritime affairs, and are not fit to stand in the least degree of competition with our later voyages. The ancients had little knowledge in navigation, people. Okay, and there was a description of the ocean when we were talking about the depth and all that, and two parlaying parties. They call it the Gulf of Mexico when it's actually the Chata Lake, or the Gulf. It's not the Gulf of Mexico. It's the fucking Chata Lake. I know my ancestral fucking history. Yeah, so any Mexican looking, you better straighten the fuck up. Navigation is very ancient. Of old, by an inviolable law made by custom according to Pliny Vitatus and other, the sea was locked up from the 11th of October to the 10th of March. The sea was locked up. No ships daring to venture forth, dreading short nights and foul weather, neither in summer, means rough people, did they so much as once offer, unless driven by storms, to attempt the often. Or lose sight of the land. Yet there is no question but that several nations in former ages made it their business, spending their whole time in wearing themselves in the practical art of navigation. Well, it's well known that all the earth was one nation. So we know that Look her up is all I asked y'all to do. So if you didn't do it, woo on you. I'm not going to give you the whole bio on this woman. The sacred scripture testifies that the kings of Judea, and what is the sacred scriptures, right? Solomon, Jehoshaphat, and Ozias, and other prepared several fleets that sailed through remote seas, fighting themselves with gold from Ophir and other rarities, which were imported to supply and enrich the Holy Land. And Strabo, which we know is not Israel because it didn't exist, also tells us that the king Solomon, being contemporary with Homer, then discovered, but she is rereading some things, India, and Pliny relates that the Romans in the reign of Augustus, passing the straits of Gibraltar and slaying the Ne plus ultra, coasted Spain, France, and Belgium, leaving not at the promontory of the Cimbrians, now called in parentheses Shagarath, but also ventured into the Northern Ocean, which washes Norway and Lapland. But long before this, as Athenaeus relates, Philius Ptolemaeus, a Grecian captain, and several others passed the Hercylean pillars, penetrating the northern seas as far as Britain. Now they say there's a giant statue in that lake, that water. And adventuring made the first discovery of Thule, and to the southward the African coast without Gibraltar and beyond the Atlas were now and then explored by several expert captains. But more remarkable is the voyage of Hanno and I can't stand this fucking word. Carthaginian and Eudoxus, excuse me. Caesenius, flying from some of these words, man, be killing me. Some of them I've heard many times before, though. King Letherus set sail from the Arabian Gulf and passing the Great Cape, came to an anchor at last in the mouth of Gibraltar, having discovered all the eastern, southern, and western parts of Africa. It's not what it said in the original book I read. We're going to leave it, though. Ultima Thule, supposed by some to be Ireland. Yes, I wanted to say that. Vide Georgic, The Voyages of Hanno of Eudoxus. Okay, and that's a book. So the Ultima Thule, the original Tawny people. What do they call them? The Negroes of Ireland. Yeah. Okay, so there you know. Moreover, it deserves special observation that an ancient Swedish king, as Cornelius Nepos relates, sent as a rarity and great present to the Roman consul Metellus Sylla some Indians, who, losing their course, harried up and down with perpetual storms and stress of weather, were at least driven into the northern ocean, where they suffered shipwreck, yet saving themselves landed on his coast. Aristarchus Grammaticus relates that Menelaus, sailing from the sack of Troy, became so great a voyager that, leaving the straits, he surrounded Africa and discovered India. And after 8 years, remeasuring the same way he went, returned with great riches in safety to his own kingdom, which is consentaneous to Homer, who said, and this is an Odyssey. Do you know was that Homer, the Odyssey? Yeah, chapter 1, verse 4. None must compare mansions with love. His seats celestial are, but with me any may, who 8 years tossed through worlds of miseries from coast to coast, amongst unknown seas of my return small hope, Cyprus, Phoenicia, Egypt, Ethiopia, Sidon, and Remobos found, in Libya, where there, and then it goes on and on, lambs are horned, their ewes teem thrice a year, Phoenicia and Egypt, and that's underlined. So what does that allude to? I guess we'll get into that. The commentators of Homer have been very inquisitive to find out Menelaus' voyage into Ethiopia. Crates suppose that he had passed out at the straits, doubled the southern cape, and so arrived thither. Eratosthenes conjectures that in the time of Homer, the straits mouth was an isthmus, and the Egyptian isthmus overflowed by the sea, which afforded him a shorter passage. But that is most probable, which Strabo delivers, that he then went to the borders of Ethiopia when he passed up Egypt to the city of Thebes, the border of Ethiopia being not far distant from thence in Strabo's time, probably very near it in Homer's. Doesn't that contradict the bullshit they was teaching in history class? For those of us who had history in the 70s, right? Holy smell. Well, I've been all over there and read enough books to know better. Okay, anyway. And all this is for that which the Grecian geographers relate concerning Ptolemy, Euergetes, king of Egypt, is not to be forgotten. That sending pilots commissioned to take the soundings, there we go, and settle landmarks in the Arabian Gulf, they found by chance a forsaken vessel, only in it one man half dead, lying among several other breathless bodies, of whom being refreshed with convenient cordials, they inquired his fortune, but he being unable to give them any present satisfaction, neither understanding what the other said, they sent him to the court, where soon having got a smattering of Greek, he informed Euergetes that he was a native Indian, driven from their course into the place where they found him by stress of weather. Those large 30, 40 men canoes and ships, people. We use ships. Others said they sent him to the court, where soon having got a smattering of Greek, he informed Euergetes that he was a native Indian, driven from their course into the place where they found him by stress of weather, and that his company were famished, all their provisions spent in their wandering from their intended voyage. Thus being kindly entertained, he also promised the king to open his passage, in parentheses, if so he please, and into India. The king slept not upon this intelligence, but immediately prepared a fleet freighted with such commodities as were advised, with which setting forth by the conduct of their Indian pilot, they anchored in their desired port and brought the king in return from the place a rich cargo of silk, spices, costly drugs, and precious gems. We know that drugs is a misnomer. Cleopatra, about 60 years after, intending not to lose the advantage reaped by the former discoveries, equipped another and greater navy, which passing through the Red Sea found the stern of a ship, on which was presented a horse, whereby some of the more knowing seamen judged that it had been a Gibraltar vessel, and sailing about Africa, there by sad accident suffered a wreck. This stern was afterwards led up and fixed as a memorial in the marketplace of Memphis. In these latter times, the first that endeavored to drive a European trade in Africa and held commerce with India was the state of Venice, who sailed from there through the Adriatic into the Mediterranean Sea, so steering for Alexandria, were unlading their goods. From there, they carried them over land, and shipping again in the Arabian Gulf, sailed directly from India. Thus, by land and water were exchanged several commodities, and the Indian growth and rich products of the Oriental world plentifully transported to Venice, and from there. All Europe had ample accommodation until an Egyptian sultan suffered the way to be infested by thieves and murdering robbers. That so they were enforced to remove there and discharge their several cargoes to Aleppos, from whence on mules and camels they carried their goods to Babylon, so to Basra, and then to Ormus, where they reshipped there directly standing for India. Now, any of y'all know, if y'all actually got to read the actual book, it was Hindustan. No India existed. None. Words, terms like native Indian didn't exist. It's fictional. Do the research yourselves. That's why when people come about, I'm part Native, I got Indian, I'm looking at them like this. Fuck out of here. It lets me know that they're just as ignorant as their belief in their false history. Okay? So anyway, the Venezuelans were the first that drove a trade from Europe to the East Indies. How they went their journeys, and these are explanations of like a Ptolemy into India. They were actually, it was all Ethiopia, upper and lower. There's no such thing as no fucking Africa and India and Hindu. No, it didn't exist. That's why you must know about John Ogilvy. When he wrote it, the beautiful thing about the book is he doesn't tell a lie about who we are on this soil. When we get to that. Septa and African city. Septa, like scepter, and look the word up. An African city having 5 sons. Henry his fourth behaved. Let me go back. Actually, I don't know where I was at. John, the first king of Portugal, who took from the Moors by force arms. All right, so, excuse me. Thus they enjoyed the benefit of so great, excuse me, I had to go back. I was going to say it now. Oh, excuse me. Thus they enjoyed the benefit of so great a trade and commerce until the Portuguese found a passage by sea, saving the expense and trouble of carrying goods so far by land to India, of which were here we will a little enlarge. John, the first king of Portugal, who took from the Moors by force of arms Septa, an African city, having 5 sons. Where is Septa at? Why don't y'all look that up? Henry his fourth behaved himself so gallantly in the leaguer of Septa that after he became master of the place, this prince made many bold excursions in several parties against the enemy, bringing in daily great store of booty. So growing rich, he rigged out 2 new vessels to make farther discoveries along the coast of Africa. Yet his expedition went on but slowly, being much taken off in building there a new city, then called Tarzanabella. Fucking word, I hate it. And since Villa Infantis, yes, but being admonished by a dream and checked for his laying thus aside his first design of navigation, he soon after Anno 1410 set forth the ships that he intended, which he the more accelerated, being, that means fast, hastened, okay, not OOR, please. I know some of y'all get that in your head. Being informed by some of his prisoners, natives, that Africa spread from the bases of Mount Atlas very far towards the south. This mountain then was determined, remember that in that flatlands, Mount Atlas, very far towards the south. This mountain then was the terminary of navigation that way, because thereabouts a long ridge of shelf of sands thrust its point under shallow waters so far out into the ocean that none durst venture to sail into the unknown people, being out of sight of land to double the concealed cape. Now you must remember at this time, though Ogilvy being so-called the pale skin, right? Being 33rd degree Mason, their job was to render the lies of history as they conquered, or as they swayed or changed in the narratives. So you must remember this, okay? And she's only sharing that information, putting a couple spins on it that I get from her biography, but you would think people would be smart enough to know that there are those out here who actually have some knowledge and would be able to go, don't do that, sister, but it is what it is. I'm going to read these 2 parts and we're going to be done with this part. The first that attempted to find deep water and get ground about, discovering several unknown coasts and uninhabited isles belonging to that region, were Jonas Gonzalez, Tristan Versius, and Egidius Ennius, among which were the Madeiras, and St. George de Pico, which Prince Henry first planted with Portuguese, and others since the Netherlanders. Prince Henry, Portuguese. He also obtained a grant from Pope Martin V of all the discovered territories eastward from the Canaries, forever to be undoubted right and belonging to the crown of Portugal. After Henry's decease, Anno 1460, the business of navigation and discoveries of new countries. Who remember me saying since the 1300s, who the fuck needed to do all this if they already knew the earth they were on? I'm just going to put that out there as a reminder when I made that comment, a month ago? Anyway, 1460, the business of navigation and discoveries of new countries lay neglected because King Alfonso turmoiled in the Civil War, his crown being a state. And what was that Civil War really about? Had not leisure to think or look after uncertain improvements by sea. Yet, at least having quelled his enemies, he ventured forth some ships. Now, quell your enemy doesn't mean that you're not the enemy. Who sailed as far as the river and Naga, and came to anchor before the city of Guinea, Guinea, I think it is, Genny, famous since for trade, which gave its denomination to the country and coast of Guinea. Were they dealing bartered for? Were their dealings? It should be an S. Bartered for ivory, gold, slaves, and also got a much footing into the country. Isn't it funny how we've had books coming out talking about so-called South Africa was where all the pale skins still were, and then Mokoleke, which is the reason why they call it, Modesi of the Vatican, where they went to get some of the most arduous, what they call desert devils, to be Jesuits, who were murderous, contemptuous. Now, I might be wrong. Anyway, ivory, gold, slaves, and also got of much footing into the country. That makes absolutely, I need to correct that sister with all them eloquent words. That they suddenly raised up a fort and manned it with strong garrison, shipping their slaves for Lisbon. John II, succeeding his father Alfonso, had a great design upon Arabia and India, and, if possible, was ambitious to open passages from the Atlantic to the Oriental seas. Passage from the Atlantic to the Oriental seas. But the difficulty lay in steering so often from sight of land, venturing into the main ocean, obstructed by so many dangerous shoals that lay so far out into the unknown. And we'll pick up the last part tomorrow, which starts getting into the arm. Because remember, this was called, so-called America, even during the Terry, was called Asia Superior, the old world. But like I said, you need to look into the individuals I'm telling you to look into. Kimberly R. Norton and Mr. John Ogilvy. Just look into the individuals, all right? So remember, we're not here to persecute. We're here to read and pull. You can call it cherry picking or whatever the fuck, because if you accept all this shit, something is metastasized in your head, and it's a fucking tumor of unknown sorts, and you need to have that bitch removed. This is a receipt for 1,000. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, I gotta have some of this, y'all. I'll get back to you, T. Whoo! Boy, boy, was that boy, goddamn boy. What the? Whoo, shit. God damn. Well, I'm gonna start this from the beginning again. Well, I read the what you call it, the 13th tribe, the Khazar Empire, and its heritage. To Harold Harris, to editor with whom I have never quarreled, and who suggested the title for this book. Excuse me. Whoo, that was cold. I don't really like drink cold stuff, but that was good. Acknowledgments. I wish I read this to y'all before. I wish to thank Miss Joan St. George Saunders of Writers and Speakers Research for her efficient and imaginative help in following up, obscure references and discovering source. My mouth is watering. That's so good. Material I was aware of. I like bitter shit, people, and tart. I am also indebted to Miss Shula Romney for translations from the Russian and Miss Tella Baharim for translations from the Hebrew. Yeah, that's a real name, not a fake Part 1, Rise and Fall of the Khazars. In Khazaria, sheep, honey, and Jews exist in large quantities. Not the ones you see today, people. I told y'all about the Khazarians, right? World War I, the Negroes. When they were found there, they swore they were of Egypt because there's pyramids all over the world. And then they were conquered, but then indoctrinated. And then after World War I, all of a sudden they don't exist no more. Look it up. And all of a sudden you have these new Jews running around. 7 continents, 10 tribes. The Anu Islands conquered. The people subjugated by 2 people. The Ming dynasty, the last of the real G people, conquered by 2 peoples and subjugated. Australia. The grand buildings there destroyed. It was always known in every island, if you've seen pictures of Anu ceremonies, and the Ming dynasty of those times, great cities and great cloth, but with ceremonies, just like here in long huts and wigwams, we would go unclothed. No perversions, no homosexuality and lesbianism, no none of that. Many women to one man, great strong men. Same thing was known of Germania and Prussia before it existed. Ethiopia. Easter Islands, where the British went and destroyed everything and murdered everyone. See none of your people talking that stuff. You got more tea. Let's see who's talking about that in the next couple of weeks. That's what I do. I rise. About the time when Charlemagne was crowned Emperor of the West, the eastern other coastline, the 13th tribe, he was put to sleep because of this. The eastern confines of Europe between the Caucasus and the Volga were ruled by a Jewish state known as the Khazar Empire. At the peak of its power from the 7th to the 10th centuries AD. It played a significant part in shaping the destinies of medieval and consequently of modern Europe and the Byzantine emperor and historian, Constantine Porphyrogennetus. You know I hate that word. I don't like saying those words right because I want to give an energy to things that should remain dead. 1913, 1959. 913, 959. Remember I told you about the buildings in England and certain places that had gilded on them? 920. Shit, I did a post. 928, 758. Gilded means built. It's that we're talking about grand buildings that rival the shit you see today. Okay. Must have been well aware of this when he recorded St. Petersburg. It was thousands and thousands, millennia old. Just like the original Times Square building, which they sacrilege destroyed and put up that piece of shit you see down there now. Hey, I say that with feeling because I feel very deep for what our people had created and made, and the usurpation and the destruction and the veil of lies. Must have been well aware of this when he recorded in his treatise on court protocol that letters addressed to the Pope in Rome, and similarly those to the Emperor of the West. Had a gold seal worth 2 solidi attached to them, whereas messages to the king of the Khazars displayed a seal worth 3 solidi. This was not flattery, but real politic in the period with which we are concerned. Rodberry, it is probable that the Khan of the Khazars was of little less importance in view of the imperial foreign policy than Charles the Great and his successors. See, the original Khans were Negroes all over, whether you want to believe in Prester John or not. The country of the Khazars are people of Turkish stock. Didn't the Ottomans, Pelskins go there? Anyway, occupied a strategic key position at the vital gateway between the Black Sea and the Caspian, where the great eastern powers of the period confronted each other. It acted as a buffer, protecting Byzantium against invasions by the lusty barbarian tribesmen of the northern steppes, Bulgars, Megas, and Pichinde. The Bulgars, Magyars, and Pichingids. I forget the word. That's the noise in Spanish, but yeah, etc. And later, the Vikings and the Russians. But equally, or even more important, both from the point of view of Byzantine diplomacy and of European history, is the fact that the Khazar armies effectively blocked the Arab avalanche in its most devastating early stages and thus prevented the Muslim conquest of Eastern Europe. Professor Dunlop of Columbia University, a leading authority on the history of the Khazars, has given a concise summary of this decisive yet virtually unknown episode. The Khazar country lay across the natural line of advance of the Arabs. Within a few years of the death of Muhammad, AD 632, a few years, you hear me? Because Islam didn't exist. The armies of the Caliphate, sweeping northward through the troops, through the wreckage of two empires and carrying all before them, reached the great mountain barrier of the Caucasus. This barrier, once past the road lay open to the lands of Eastern Europe. As it was, on the line of the Caucasus, the Arabs met the forces of an organized military power which effectively prevented them from extending their conquest in this direction. The wars of the Arabs and the Khazars, which lasted more than 100 years, though little known, have thus considerable historical importance. The Franks of Charles Martel on the field of Tours turned the tide of Arab invasion. At about the same time, the threat to Europe in the East was hardly less acute. So what's the West and what's the fucking East? Again, told you they tell. The victorious Muslims were met and held by the forces of the Khazars kingdom. It can scarcely be doubted that but for the existence of the Khazars in the region north of the Caucasus, Byzantium, the bulwark of European civilization in the East, would have found itself outflanked by the Arabs, and the history of Christendom and Islam might well have been very different from what we know. Exactly. It wouldn't have existed as it shouldn't have. Someone's lying still, even though he's going to tell the truth. It's just the way it is from his perspective. It is perhaps not surprising, given these circumstances, that in 732, after a resounding Khazar victory over the Arabs, what Negroes would betray all? Anyway, the future emperor, I can't say too much, Emperor Constantine V married a Khazar princess. In due time, their son became the Emperor Leo IV. Look him up, known as Leo the Khazar. Ironically, the last battle in the war, AD 737, ended in a Khazar defeat. But by that time, the impetus of the Muslims' holy war was spent. The caliphate was rocked by internal dissensions, and the Arab invaders retracted their steps across the Caucasus without having gained a permanent foothold in the north. Whereas the Khazars became more powerful than they had previously. Would that be the beginning or the sacking of the Moors? I don't know, because they didn't exist really in the 7th century. A few years later, probably AD, I think this was changing of guards, as you may call it, temporal. A few years later, probably at AD 740, the king, his court, and the military ruling class embraced the Jewish faith, and Judaism became the state religion of the Khazars. Yes. Became the state religion of the Khazars. No doubt their contemporaries were as astonished by this decision as modern scholars were when they came across the evidence in the Arab, Byzantine, Russia, and Hebrew sources. One of the most recent comments is to be found in a work by the Hungarian Marxist historian, Dr. Antal Bartha. His book on the Magyar society in the English and 9th centuries, and that's Magyar society. I already told y'all about Theosophical Society, but you can go back. And it's funny how they say Hungarian Marxist historian, but that's later on. As during most of that period, the Hungarians were ruled by them, yet their conversion to Judaism is discussed in a single paragraph with obvious embarrassment. It reads, "Our investigations cannot go into problems pertaining to the history of ideas, but we must call the reader's attention to the matter of the Khazars' kingdoms, state religion." What's funny about the Khazars, Abkhazarians were the original Negro people of Prussia, Georgia. So what were they before that? What was his name? King what? Anyway, Khazar Kingdom state religion. It was the Jewish faith with which became the official religion of the ruling strata of society. Needless to say, the acceptance of the Jewish faith as the state religion as of an ethnically non-Jewish people could be the subject of interesting speculations. We shall, however, confine ourselves to the remark that this official conversion is in defiance of Christian y'all might know what this fucking word is. Proselytizing. Yeah, proselytizing by Byzantium, the Muslim influence from the East, and in spite of the political pressure of these two powers, to a religion which had no support from any political power, but was persecuted by nearly all, has come as a surprise to all historians concerned with the Khazars, and cannot be considered as accidental, but must be regarded as a sign of the independent policy pursued by that kingdom. Now, there's a lot of names I'm throwing around in here. They existed everywhere. It was not in one place. But you got to remember, when they write pertaining, even if they're going to tell the truth. I think he was playing it safe, but everybody knew that these Jews are converts, except for the people who are born today. And a lot of the pale skins in America who would join the Camaraderie to become a consort or a convert. And them the ones you see over in Palestine being the racist, the dumbest. But because the Zionists aren't religious and don't care, they know exactly that they're not Jews. They know that they don't care. Their thing is to monopolize and control the earth, but based upon what and who is behind them, who is allowing it. Excuse me. Remember I said the video footage was shared to me by an uncle showing this piece of scab rabbi talking to Netanyahu saying, we have to hurry up. What's going on in America? We have to hurry up and bring in and usher in their savior. Yes. Don't believe me? Look it up. Okay. And we'll pick this up tomorrow, because we'll get into the investigations and all that. Okay. I mean, it gets heavy, y'all. It gets heavy. So we'll pick it up back on page 14 at the last chapter, and it gets. Y'all know me when it comes to reading stuff. I really like, and this book right here. And then we'll come back later on. I will read that. Okay. We'll get back on, because now we can get back on this and we'll just finish up. We're not going to go a little ways to go, but exposing expositions. Of course, I know y'all loving the Heaven Bearers, and we can't leave this book out. I don't care what anybody says. Terra Infinita. And then when I'm reading this, you'll start putting together a lot of this stuff going, wait a minute. I know some of you are doing it now. Wait a minute. See, when you start questioning things, don't create purgatory in an abyss of I'm being stuck. Look at things and let it go. I don't care if you're one of the people who says, I got to write it down after I read it and after I hear it. Shut the fuck up. Just listen. You're going to get the book, get it. Pay attention. Make note. Okay, put it away. It's there. We're going to heighten and enlighten another part of you that can always tap into it. If you felt like you were always unable, I'm telling you that you are more powerful than you ever can. You're more powerful than you can imagine. If you think you're sick, you're going to be sick. If you stub your toe and whether you bust your toe off, it's hanging off the side and you sit there and go pain, it's going to be painful. If you say, ain't no pain, let me go and get this taken care of. You're going to mitigate your body's response, and you can only increase and build it regardless of how many times you bust that little toe off. I don't want to get into Simeon Motoko, right? You see how the Mossad went and took him, chopped him up, ground him up, and burnt him, threw his ashes everywhere. And there he was, right back. What did he do that for? great little story, but I'm just saying. And then when the last time he came, because, you know, the story goes on and on, where he shows he's got a little part where he took his heart out, and he went and says, can I have my heart back? To me, the metaphors, I'm not just saying nothing. I'm not going, because I don't want to talk about some things that I'm aware of. We're going to leave that alone. Look him up, though. Look up the story of Simon Motoko. Simon Motoko. However you want to say it. We say Simeon Mitoko. MTBK. Okay? Simeon. They, I guess, say Simon Toko or Taka, whatever. I don't know. Do any of y'all know? Anyway, look him up. Because the last one's when the midget of the bunch flipped the 33-ton truck of the Dutch. And everybody wonders why they left. But I'm not here to say nothing. And the giants that stood behind them. And then they disappeared. And supposedly cannibalism has stopped at that time, too. But if you give enough man-made government drugs by the goofies and the loonies they hire who are sadists and sociopaths, all right, and give them enough stars and marks and tell them you don't have to worry about constitutions, put in the right position to go out and act the way they do and give them technology and education, which education is pure bullshit anyway. Then you have the people who are called children soldiers who've been drug-induced by nasty pedophile bastards, still being allowed to live, rain terror on their own people. And then all of a sudden you bring a whole bunch of them here. But I know y'all know everything. You're paying attention to everything. I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to get ready to send my sign out, so I'm going to sign the fuck off. I appreciate y'all. Again, thanks for the donations. What was it? Did somebody give me also another one? I'm not going to buy no books for about another week or two. And hopefully we'll get a little more donations. That way I can get some of the good books. I don't want to spend a whole lot of my damn hard cash. I'm reading to get the books. And the thing about, like I said, I'll donate the books. If it gets to a point where, I don't want y'all to see that, I might tell some of you, hey, look, I know you really like these books. I can send these books to you for your kids, and then you can take good care of them. Don't be having them in the basement or swampy, this, that, and other. And, a couple $100 worth of books, you know what I'm saying? I've got so many. But yeah, so we're at 75. Appreciate the donations. Awesome. Who was that? I got to always give a shot. We had Joseph Williams with 20, Susan with the 50, and Chata Highbell with the 5. Appreciate you guys. Love you. Love you guys. I love everybody. You know that. And those who donated before, and respect Marshall. But like I said, another week and a half or so, and I'll get enough, and then I'll match it, and I'll order some more books. I'm waiting on a bunch to come in. I guess the holidays made everything slow. I got one. But regardless, that's upstairs. When I get to read the other things, we need to finish these. All right, we don't go rushing off and running. We're not the rodent in the maze running right into the damn guillotine or the mousetrap that catches half the body. It's no. That's my boy is back. All right, so let me get some shout outs. And Rhonda, what's cracking, baby? Mama Red, hey, Mama Benji. Hey, what's going on, Benji? ABJR, what's cracking? So yeah, appreciate you guys speaking up. Anyway, you know where it's at. Ladies, gents, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. All right. Drink this hot ass tea. And then I got to head out. I'm not supposed to go nowhere today, but I got to head out. I got to take care of something. All right. Respect.